Welcome everyone to this Ecodharma conversation. In fact, the very first in what we're hoping will be a series of conversations sponsored by the Rocky Mountain Ecodharma Retreat Center. My name is David Loy. I'm one of the founders and one of the teachers up there. And my conversation partner today is Tara Lloyd Burton from Denver, who will be offering a special retreat in July 8th through 11. And uh, the point of this conversation is it's a chance for Tara Lloyd to talk about what he's up to generally, and in particular this retreat.
And
Tara
what we're up
Lloyd,
to as well.
okay, yeah, we'll go back and forth.
Me being on occasion they and them.
There you go. Okay, well, we'll just see where it goes, see where it flows. All right.
Okay.
So let me just say, Tara Lloyd has been doing insight meditation since, I guess, 1975, if I understand that right. And you were one of the important figures in helping the Spirit Rock Meditation Center out in California getting started and qualified as a community Dharma teacher back in 2000. And you've also been basically, I think, the resident guiding teacher, and if I understand right, one of the main founders, if not the founder, of the Insight Meditation Community of Denver.
Mhm.
And more recently, you are the environmental chaplain there, which obviously connects with Ecodharma.
Sure.
And most recently, you've retired what, a couple of years ago from your 30-year career as teaching environmental law and policy at
Mhm.
CU.
Yes.
And I guess that was back in 2017. I'm looking at my records here.
Mhm.
You retired in 2016 and then came out as gender fluid a year later.
Mhm.
And you've also been functioning as a naturalist and indigenous historian at the
Mhm.
Bar Lake State Park near Brighton.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, we're talking about your path, and in particular about this pretty special retreat that you're going to be offering up at the Eco Dharma Center. But before we get into that, is there anything more you'd like to say about your path and how you've ended up where you are?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say, David, I wish to express my gratitude, my appreciation to the Center for hosting this retreat, and in fact, playing an active role in helping it get organized and get off the ground. Um, and I'm really looking forward to presenting it. Um, in that, I also kind of played a bit of a role in getting the center up and running. So, what I thought I might do to start with is talk very briefly about my own path, both in terms of the Dharma and how it actually led to my decision to come forth as gender fluid. And then going from there a little bit more deeply into why it occurred to me that it would be a useful thing to hold this retreat and what some of the um, ideas underpinning it are and what some of our activities will be. And just to give people a better idea, both of underlying intention and also of what I think the experience may have to offer.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I came home from Vietnam spiritually wounded in a fairly profound way. I'd been a Navy medic with the Marine Corps um, and did my first insight meditation retreat in 1975 with Joseph Goldstein, Jack Kornfield, and Sharon Salzberg, who turned out to be lifelong friends and also my Dharma teaching mentors over the years. I've been aware of a strong feminine dimension to my being, to my psyche since earliest childhood. Growing up in Southern Arizona and in the 50s and 60s, it was very deeply buried. Growing up in the Southern Baptist Church was also a sense of real shame and tremendous fear of being not sort of masculine enough or not fitting in or real a real dualistic fear of myself, I guess you could say, in some important ways. And so I live with that pretty much all my life, feeling the powerful internal feminine presence that it was like she was imprisoned in some way, you know, and solitary, wanting to come forth, but just not finding an appropriate avenue or means. And then as I aged and I joined a group for gender fluid men, I came to realize that I wasn't alone, but still planned to die in the closet essentially until my heart condition worsened. I have paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, and it began to become, more pronounced. And I was getting ready to go on retreat with Joseph Goldstein, and I was filling out the application form for Spirit Rock, and Spirit Rock being what it is, had a great long list of questions about gender identity, sexual orientation, and whatnot. And so I left those spaces blank because I didn't want to lie, but I also wasn't ready to tell the truth until I got to the retreat. I actually came out on the retreat. And I was in a small group interview with Kamala Masters, and I was coming forth, telling my story, and then also kind of bemoaning my fate. Saying this is really complex, difficult karma. I don't know how I'm going to tell my family, how I'm going to tell my Sangha, how it'll be received. And Kamala said, "Oh no," she said, "it's actually quite good karma." She said, "You have the ability to experience both gender identities while also realizing that all identities are illusory." And so for me, that has been a really kind of a guiding theme ever since, which is being truthful and forthright about the nature of my identity has come to seem important and freeing in a really profound way, as I know it is for others across the sexual orientation, gender identity spectra, and yet it comes with its own set of challenges. The poet E. Cummings once said, it takes courage to be who you really are. And the other thing was going on when I was in law school in the late 1970s, and about half the states in the nation, same-sex lovemaking was a criminal offense. And at the law, it was called crimes against nature, right? So I've recently traced back the legal history of that, where that term came from. Up until, in the Anglo-American legal tradition, up until the 1500s, it was the church that decided what was and was not natural. Okay, Henry, when he created his state church, he assumed the authority to do that.
Henry VIII of England, got it.
Yeah, right. And he criminalized to the point of capital punishment all forms of same-sex lovemaking, and that the property of people so convicted would revert to the state. At that time, his state church was in the process of taking over the Catholic Church. And same-sex relations were actually fairly common among Catholic monastics. So Thomas Cromwell sent his spies out there. Everyone they found doing that was tried, convicted, mostly hanged, or beheaded, and all the property came to the state. So that's one of the primary means by which he seized the property of the church. The reason I'm telling this story is because a kind of a breakthrough occurred for me on that retreat with Joseph. And it was like this at law, what is natural, right? What is a crime against nature? Who has the power to say what is natural, right? And then these phrases from the Bardo Todal, the Tibetan book of the Great Liberation on Hearing in the Bardo, started to come to mind. O nobly born, you who are the son or daughter of the Buddha, remember who you are in these times of change. Remember the Buddha who has taken birth in your very own form.
Mm.
Step out of the small self, this body of fear, and rest in generosity and kindness of
Mm.
heart. Rest in your own true virtue and wisdom. Rest in the dedication and equanimity and compassion that you share with all living beings, for that is who you truly are.
Mm.
Trust it. Rest in your own true nature. Wow.
A very different understanding of what it means to be natural. Yeah, yeah, wow.
What happened in the process of coming out is was stepping out of the body of fear, the fear body, and resting in a complete acceptance of, yeah, this is me. This is my own true nature, right? Trust it,
Mm.
for this is who you really are. And that was kind of just came washed over me like a spiritual tsunami, and there was just kind of a complete letting go and a realization of the freedom that lies with being who I really am in a complete way. And it's in that spirit that I, want to offer this retreat. It's an opportunity, and it's called Rainbow Sangha Refuge.
Mhm.
Is co-creating a place of refuge for everyone and for anyone across the spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation. There are some powerful destructive forces at work in our society right now. We have laws, and they've either been enacted or being contemplated all over the country to basically politically and legally persecute trans kids, and their
Especially trans,
families and their
yes.
caregivers, right?
Yeah,
This is a real thing. This is going on.
yeah.
And there is still a tremendous amount of transphobia, homophobia going on in our culture. And so it invites us to inhabit the fear body, the body of fear. And
Mm.
it takes ongoing effort to witness, to be open and honest about who we are truly. What this retreat offers is an opportunity for us all to collectively step out of the body of fear
Got it.
and rest in our own true virtue and wisdom, appreciate each other's courage, support each other's state of being as we are, relax into, because there's going to be more opportunity for social interaction, but it's still an insight meditation retreat. We are going to create circumstances favorable for the cultivation of deep samadhi, the
Mhm.
tranquil
Mhm.
focused attention. We'll be working with noble silence. There'll be a lot of emphasis on surrendering to the environment itself as a teacher. From the time that I've spent on the land, just as other natural settings where I've led retreats, a great deal, and this is true from the time of the Buddha. He said, go into the forest and sit at the
Yeah,
base of
right.
a tree.
Yeah,
Step one,
right, right.
quiet the mind. So we're going to have ample opportunity for people to also do solo practice on the land, to go forth, find a place that feels right for them, simply settle in. We're going to be using 4 elements practice to help people link in and embody the relationship to the earth and to creation around them. I've also got and have a growing interest actually in animism and mysticism in early Buddhism.
Mhm.
A lot of my research and writing when I was, professing environmental law and public was on the environmental rights of indigenous peoples. In my book, my 2002 book, Worship in the Wilderness, involved interviews and spending time with a lot of elders from different indigenous cultures, primarily in the American Southwest. And I also ran a program for the Park Service where I trained American Indian college students to serve as cultural resource interpreters at national parks and monuments,
Mm. Mm.
teaching visitors about their culture. One of those students was at Petroglyphs National Monument in New Mexico. At sunset one day, he took me out after the park had closed, and we went to one of these place. It's basically a kind of a shrine where these ancients, and they're the Pueblans don't call them rock art; they call them images.
Hmm.
And for them, they are living portals of contact with their elders from times long gone by.
Hmm.
And so, and we sat and meditated, and there, some real samadhi happened. And then there was just this sort of sense of presence, under his guidance and his suggestion. There was the realization that, and the Buddha says this in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, when he's saying who to express loving kindness to, he says, whatever beings there may be, both seen and unseen.
Hmm.
And he is very forthright about not telling you there are not devas, although he talked about the devas all the time, but the beneficent, non-corporeal spiritual beings that can be there to, provide assistance, help us out. It's whatever beings there may be, both seen and unseen, here and yet to be born. So it's like, again, it's surrendering to what may be around us. From where come the sources of knowledge that might be of benefit both to us and to the land. One of the students that I trained, a Lakota, who is also training in the old ways from his elders, he was leading a circumambulation of the monument in northeastern Wyoming that the tribes called Bears Lodge, and that the Park Service called Devil's Tower National Monument.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we circumambulated the base of the tower clockwise, and then he led us in a prayer. And the deity to whom they praise is called Wakantanka. And in the books like The Sacred Pipe and Black Elk Speaks, Nick Black Elk, who was a holy man of the Oglalas, who he used the term, he was also a Catholicist, so he called it Great Spirit. So he said, oh yeah, well, God. And my student said, nah, not really. And this is what the anthropologist said too: the literal translation of Wakantanka is great mysterious.
That's interesting because I mean, I guess it fits in with my own experience and that of many other practitioners. When we actually leave the comfortable four-cornered rooms and actually meditate out in the natural world, especially if one is doing some solo, you really have the possibility of opening up and sensing that there's so much more there. And again,
Yes.
I think the appropriate word is mystery, or like we say so often in Mahayana, don't know mind. There's something more here,
Yeah,
you know. And
absolutely.
even the trees, it's like just recently, the last few years, we're getting these books talking about the sentience of trees and how they
Yes,
communicate. I mean,
yes.
there's clearly
Suzanne Simard's
there's
work,
clearly
and yeah.
something more here, and I think
Oh,
that
absolutely.
fits in with this importance of, spending time outside, meditating in the natural world, being out there, opening up. Because, like you said, the Buddha did it, but somehow I think as the traditions have developed, somehow we've lost a lot of that.
I think one of the reasons, especially in the West, and perhaps even especially in the United States, when we lost it, is that contemporary Buddhists, at least those of a West European background,
Mm-hmm.
not the 3/4 of Buddhists in the United States who are all people of color, of Asian ethnic lineage, but we've become so enthralled with the scientific validation of Buddha practice, of
Sure.
Dharma practice, of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and
Right.
what happens to your brain waves, your blood pressure goes down, and yada yada.
Yeah.
And they tended to poo-poo in the earliest texts, the Buddha talking about the forest spirits who were offended by the monks. He just went out there and clear cut a space to start practicing, and so the spirit spooked them, freaked them out, and went running back to the Buddha, and he said, did you ask their permission? Well, no. He said, get back out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they did. And so that's woven deeply into the very earliest teachings. He said, be mindful of who or what's already there. that this is a living world we inhabit. We're not separate from it, right? And so, to the extent that we can acknowledge that, when my student was conducting his prayer, the prayer is, "Oh, great mysterious, you know me, but I do not know you.
Mm. Hmm.
Let
My
me,"
my favorite story
yeah,
from the Buddha,
please.
continuing there, is that the one where the tree spirit appears to the Buddha and complains, I think in a dream of the Buddha's, that one of the bhikkhu, one of the monks, had cut down its tree in order to make a kind of kuti, and he was kind of complaining he'd lost his home, as it were. And the next morning, the Buddha called the Sangha together and made some rules that they're not supposed to cut down trees or even branches or even, green leaves from the bushes and the trees. So, that really fits in with what we're talking
Oh,
about here.
yeah. When I was on sabbatical in Thailand a few years ago, I was studying what they call the forest monks who were doing tree ordination.
Right?
They would find one of the great elder trees in the hardwood forest, in the rainforest, and there were supposed to be laws against it, but bootleg logging was rife throughout northern Thailand. And so, and there are these elder trees, just like Suzanne Simard says, finding the mother tree.
Mhm.
There are these elder trees upon whom much of the rest of the forest depends. And so what they've been doing is going out there and ordaining the trees
Yeah.
as monks and nuns, in part because the bootleg loggers are Thai for the most part. And the gravest offense one can perform is to take the life of a monk or a nun.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's actually had positive
It,
effect
it
as
gives them
far
pause
as,
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
but it's like this stuff isn't make believe, it's for real.
So,
I've in terms of my own encounters with I think, as the text described, with Davis, being with Western teachers who are very frank about their own encounters. Uh, Greg Scharf, one of the teachers that on the retreat where I came out, actually, we did the chant, may there be, it was called the every blessing, may there be every blessing, may all the Devas protect you. And whatever one thinks of them to be, whether it's the collective super consciousness,
hmm
like Teilhard Chardin talks about,
hmm hmm
uh, a collective spirit that arises when everyone is at a certain level of samadhi,
hmm
whatever you want
hmm
to characterize it or theorize it might be, that is a palpable presence that enough practitioners, both in the present day as well as ancient times, have come to acknowledge and appreciate, that it's not only part of our tradition,
hmm
if you get deeply into it, it is can become very much a living part of our practice as well. So
Now,
I don't have that expectation of everyone coming on their retreat, but it's just to go there,
mm,
surrender to the environment, just
mm.
like my student. Oh, great mysterious, you know me, but I do not know you. Help me to know myself so that I may live as I should, you know?
So, do you see a special relationship between this kind of opening up to the natural world and gender fluidity?
Absolutely.
Could you say a bit about that?
Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that it has, for me, looking at this, and for me, a crime against nature is any deliberate act that has the effect of seriously degrading the Earth's capability to sustain life. That's the crime against nature.
Good.
um,
Well said.
and so, how to live in a way that's genuinely and deeply respectful of the living world
Mm,
means learning to live in a way that is deeply and genuinely respectful of who we are, in terms of the truth of our gender identities, our sexual orientations, and embracing that with the same honor and same respect that we bring to the natural world, because I think it helps us to live a more complete self-accepting life.
mm,
And I think that actually gender identity and sexual orientation, whatever they are, both for those of us in the non-normative realms as
mhm.
well as others, I think to fully inhabit and appreciate that is in fact the path to not just a more sentient and intimate relationship with nature, but
Mhm.
also to freedom,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
really, really, that poem by William Blake, uh, those who bind themselves to joy do the winged life
That's
destroy.
right.
Those who kiss the joy as it flies live in eternity's sunrise.
Sunrise.
For me, that's the resolution that Kamala was talking about between gender identity and letting go of all identities. You know, when we fully accept who we are, there is a certain freedom and joy that comes with that. And
Thank
then
you.
when the somebody's really deep, there's also the letting go. The two exist side by side.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Can you tell us, is there anything more you would want to say about how the retreat will be conducted? Is there any
Sure.
more
We're
specifics?
going to, we assemble on Thursday evening, share a meal together, uh, introductions. I want to place a little bit more emphasis on our ability to network and get to know each other than
Mhm.
sometimes happens on queer retreats. Um, and then taking the precepts, going into silence, doing sitting and walking practice for the next couple of days, just Dharma talks, some discussion around some of the very themes that we've talked on today.
Mhm, mhm.
How do we learn to honor and respect who we are, especially in a world that is, in some cases, overtly hostile to who we are? How do we find not only inner strength and support, how can we be here for each other? How can we enhance a sense of um, of queer Sangha? How can we bring the Dharma to bear not only individually but collectively,
Mm, mm.
and making sure that we are able always to co-create a place of refuge for ourselves and for each other. So, and then there's going to be a certain amount of music. There's going to be, we'll be doing some appropriate songs together. I'll bring along my banjo, and so there'll be some of that, um, and hopefully coming out of the experience, there will also be opportunities that we make available for us to stay in touch with each other, to
Sure.
stay in
Mm,
contact with each
mm.
other. So any sense of community, of gathering, of being together doesn't necessarily end when we disperse to the four winds. Yeah.
So
So we
would
get
you
some
want to
kind
say anything more about, well, maybe you've already answered the questions, like so it's kind of open-ended in terms of who you think would be most attracted to this and also, what how they would benefit. Maybe you've already answered those questions, but let me just throw it open in terms of if there's anything else you'd want to add there. Yeah.
I think basically some of the points that we've already covered together,
Mhm.
uh, the opportunity to come together in community, the opportunity to uh, both exhibit and explore notions of self-acceptance, of accepting each other, of exploring ways to appreciate what this stunning environment that the retreat center has to offer
Mm.
in terms of what it may be able to teach us,
I
how
do have the
our
sense
emerge.
that as much as possible, you're going to be outside, if I heard you
Yeah,
right,
yeah. I'm
sitting
going to
outside,
encourage
walking outside.
people,
Got it.
should to the extent you wish to do so, to
Got
do
it.
as much outside sitting as they want to.
Got it.
Just so we can just take in the power, the literal
Hmm.
energy, the energy of the ancestors, the energy of whatever beings there may be, as the Buddha said, the energy of our tradition, of the deeply rooted nature-based teachings across the dharmas. They're in there in all of them, but they're sometimes overlooked in the Theravada tradition, and we're going to kind of bring those
Right.
forth and make them manifest while we're together. So people who feel they may, and just also who may wish to be in touch with a broader community of
Uh-huh.
people who
Mhm.
are, together in queer sangha, uh, and may wish to continue that after the retreat's over. Uh,
Great.
and just, retreats for me look like this one, like the ones at Spirit Rock, in addition to allowing for profound practice, to me, there's always like a little element of summer camp, just kind of, just a being together in a beautiful place and hanging out. And so, yeah, some of that, a little bit of that too, it's not, it's not against the rules to have fun.
One comment and one question. Um,
Please.
it occurs to me that it's important to mention that the Ecodharma Center, or to give it the full name, the Rocky Mountain Ecodharma Retreat Center, that is on land traditionally where the Arapaho and the Ute used to live. And as far as I know, it's officially unceded, but that,
Yes.
we're paying our respects to the people who
Oh,
originally
absolutely.
lived on that land.
There have been humans inhabiting that very region for about 11,000 years now.
Wow. Wow.
There are teepee rings that date back about 11,000 years, buffalo hunting camps for the most part along the base of the Front Range. The Utes at one point, quite a long time ago, that was their land when they were also down on the prairie. When the Arapahoes and the Cheyennes and the others came in, they drove the Utes further up. And so actually there were enormous running battles that occurred between the Utes and the Arapahoes up in Rocky Mountain National Park,
Hmm.
just a few miles to the north.
Hmm.
So this was contested land,
Yeah.
by and large. It wasn't all noble savages sitting around, beating the drum. There is this is a rough and tumble existence a long time ago, but yeah, the land. Well, you know better than I. You've spent more time there. Just how rich in history it is.
It's incredible. Yeah.
How it's ever changing. Just like we are, and how one of the reasons that it's so useful and important to come and spend a time like that is so you can fall in love. Fall in
And you're going to
love
be there
with
in sort of
the.
early, middle July, which is like prime time for the greenery, for the meadows, for the
Yeah,
flowers. It's just going to be gorgeous.
yeah.
Let's just hope the weather is supportive. Yeah. A quick
Well,
question,
at least in the mornings.
a big question about COVID. I mean, are you going to have
Yes.
specific policies about how you deal with that? I mean,
To
some
the
people
best
are
of my
obviously.
knowledge, I think that the center is going to be requiring evidence of vaccination. That's certainly going to be my preference.
Got it.
They're available. We vaccinate not only to protect ourselves, but to protect each other. And so co-creating a place of refuge
Hmm.
is creating a place of safety. And
So,
for me, that's basically part of the teaching. So, yeah.
well, it sounds wonderful. And maybe the best way to end is, can you give us details about if someone is interested that they may want to come, what should they do? How can they find more information? Who should they contact?
I think that going to the Rocky Mountain Ecodharma Retreat Center website, there's a fairly thorough discussion of the retreat there.
Mhm.
Um, and then I have given the center my own email address as contact,
Okay.
because I would be happy to discuss in more detail than we have here today, um, what I have in mind for the retreat. And it is open to people who have not done residential practice
Ah,
before, as
okay.
well as those who have experience with it. And so the teachings will be graduated. So it'll be if you've never even sat before, there will be, you will get the grounding necessary in
Great.
order to
Good to
find the
know.
retreat an enriching experience.
Wonderful. So yeah, all levels of practice would be quite comfortable in terms of.
All levels, and people from all traditions, or who have never really even seriously explored Buddha Dharma before. Um, the intention is to maximize access, so people can come in at whatever level they bring with them, which is fine. And there will be interview opportunities as well. So for those who feel they would benefit from either small group or one-on-one instruction, or just a discussion about what's coming up,
Mhm.
that's going to be available at the retreat as well.
Wonderful. So just getting back to that website contact, our so it's the first letters, right? Rocky Mountain Ecodharma Retreat Center. So it's RMERC, RMERC.com. That would be the website, and that would bring, there's on that website people can find more information about your retreat, and also a way to contact you if they want to
Yes.
get and also sign up. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara Lloyd. Anything else here that you want to add? I've really
No,
enjoyed this
again, I just want
conversation.
to
Yeah.
express my appreciation that we're able to do this. And it's nice to be in touch with you again. It's been too long.
Likewise,
Uh,
and I expect we have a lot more to talk about, and I hope we'll have those opportunities. Yeah,
I
yeah.
expect so.
Thank you.
Stay safe and be well.
Thank you for doing
Vaya
this.
con, vaya con Dharma.
Okay, so stay healthy, okay,
Yeah.
and we'll be in touch and see if I can stop.